Well, hello everyone. It's Kevin Jackson from Digital Transformers. Welcome to the Buzz Digital Transformers edition. As you know, this is normally a live stream, but this edition has been pre-recorded. Members of the team, however, are live online in the chat to work with you, talk with you, and keep us tracking. So today's news is really centered around the intersection of our virtual and physical worlds as it applies to supply chain, digital assets, and real world assets. So when I was talking to Scott about doing all this, his eyes sort of glazed over and looked like he was going to have a bad day. So we stuffed him in the closet. So Scott is back there banging right now, and we have control. So for this edition, I've brought in a heavyweight leader in this merger of real world and virtual world. Dr. Chris Smithmyer the CEO of Black Wallet Ltd. Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me, Kevin.
You know, first of all, that is so beautiful behind you there. Some people may say that's virtual. Where are
This
you?
this is actually out in the yard right now. We have beautiful central Pennsylvania fall. The leaves are turning, and actually had some nice weather today. So came out here where we could have a nice little chat.
No, thank you very much. But before we get into the news, can you tell me a little bit about, what is Black Wallet and what do you do?
Okay, well, Black Wallet is a stablecoin 2.0 ecosystem management company, and we do a lot of high value 5 million plus tokenizations. That's the elevator pitch that I put out there to people. And like you said, with Scott's
Mhm.
eyes glazing over, that usually gets me out of the conversation if I can get out of it. One of the things when we first got into crypto that we realized is that if you start looking at the US dollar, it's a dependent variable. So it's not stable. It moves around, it does stuff. That's the reason why we have
Mhm.
money markets. And we said, where can we get stability? And the answer was in real world assets by using a mass scale project. And a lot of people have started to look into this now. We've been doing it for about 4 years now. We were one of the first ones to come in. A lot of people are referencing us in their white papers because of how we brought this to the field. And we weren't even the progenitors of it. There were people before us too, but we took it to the stablecoin level. And now we're bringing it into tokenomics to help bring advanced tokenomics to the field, where we're not just giving people a meme coin and saying, hey, attach it to an asset. We're saying,
Mhm.
hey, you need to have a custodian, you need to have a tokenizer, and you need to have an owner. And that creates an ethical system where you can trust the assets that you're receiving. And we're really working to bring trust into the system and build a better cryptoverse for everybody.
Wow, this seems really important, especially if you're dealing with, things in your supply chain. People are always wondering about where's my stuff. And in today's world, trying to make sure that your stuff is actually real. And I guess that's what you're doing so that you can trust that your virtual assets, your real world things that are existing in this virtual world are actually real. Is that true?
Yeah, that's one of the things we really push for, is because if you buy a government bond or a T-bill or something like that, you're basing it off of the desire of the government to pay you back, which means you'll
Hmm.
hear the statement full faith and credit, full faith and credit. It's basically you're giving the government a loan and hoping they pay you back. Whereas whenever you deal with real world tokenization, whether you're tokenizing a commodity, whether you're tokenizing a property or a company, that ownership, that valuable document, the title, the deed, whatever it is put into custody with a third party. And that third party guarantees that it is there. Whereas the United States government can't say the money is there until they write you the check. You can always go on chain and make sure that your property in a real world asset backed system is there. And that really it takes away that zero trust system where you just trust whatever the bank tells you, where you can actually prove what you're being told by a tokenizer. And that's one of the things that's really going to open this world up, because you don't have to have faith to have credit anymore. Now you just have to have assets.
Wow. So I think this is one of the things that our friends at Deloitte wanted to highlight in a recent article that they released on the rise of the digital supply network. The fact that supply chain is really about tracking the transfer of real world assets from one owner to another owner. And these are traditionally linear in nature with discrete progression of like design, plan, source. And this is supply chains sort of rigid and stayed. But now with virtual assets and real world assets coming into the fore, you need to be more dynamic and more interconnected. So in this article, Deloitte called this a digital supply network, which integrate information from many different sources and locations to drive the physical act of production and distribution. And this is important because you're actually doing supply chain management in the virtual world. So these can really lead to as they put it, a virtual collapse in the supply chain. But most importantly, you have to support certain characteristics in your supply chain. You have to always be on and agile. Need to be connected to the supply community. I always like to call it your supply mesh. You have to be really intelligent about where your goods are going, where they're being sourced, and where they're being delivered. And you have to have end to end transparency across the entire supply chain so that you can support holistic decision making. So, in your work, what does the supply um, chain and the digital supply network, how does that relate to real world assets?
I think it's really important whenever you look at that. One of the most common things you're going to hear from the fudsters that are attacking the digital asset world is if it's not your keys, it's not your wallet. And
Hmm.
that's really a really weird, it's a nice little catchphrase, but realistically, can you walk into your bank right now and take all your money out and just not tell anybody you don't have the keys to the bank? So, one of the things that you look at with supply chain is if you don't know where your product is, do you really own it? And if you don't have
Hmm.
that bill of lading or that receipt, do you really own it? And there is a possibility of the supply chain infrastructure as we know it starting to collapse a little bit and change very rapidly in how it operates. Because, as you know, the supply chain boils down to bill of lading, where I give a piece of paper to a transporter, the transporter takes it, gives it to the person, and whenever they get that piece of paper, the money gets sent back to me. That's what it is. It's just a whole bunch of those in a row. What the digital world lets you do is it allows you to make this process simpler, that it is on chain.
Hmm.
Everybody can see the document. You don't have to trade it between hands. And where it really shines, where it really helps society is as we move into the world where drop shipping is more important and breaking down parcels into smaller things that are shipped internationally to go to residential addresses becomes complicated because if you have one bill of lading, that means that whenever you break it down, you have to create a new bill of lading and new bills of lading to send it to people's houses. And you have thousands of pieces of paper that everybody has to keep track of. And if you lose track of it, you open yourself up to a lawsuit. Whereas with a virtual bill of lading, with a tokenized asset, you can go on the blockchain, see it. If it's divisible, it can be broken down into pieces and seen where it's getting shipped and what wallets it's going to. And this can all be seen on the blockchain, whether it's through a permissionless or a permission system. So if you want it to be private, it can be private. If you want it to be public, it can be public. And that way, there's no question where the goods are, who has them, and even whether the person at the end received them. Because that, as we know, that's a major loss leader for Amazon and companies where people say they just didn't get their package when they
Right.
actually got it and just want another one. So the digitization of it, Deloitte is absolutely right. It is going to change the face of the world And it's going to change it for the better because we're going to get more products delivered where they're supposed to go, and we're going to cut out a lot of that extra fat in the middle.
But if I'm dealing in how supply chains are now, and I've made a big investment in tools and technologies and software, will this cause me to now have to reinvest and buy new tools and to link with things like blockchain and these real world asset organizations? What does that mean to me personally?
It shouldn't. It should actually save you a lot of money because right now your biggest costs are
Okay.
going to be paper or accounting to manage the amount of documents that you're dealing with. Because as much as it costs to ship goods, the transfer of documents back and forth with work hours for people reviewing those documents and dealing with those
Right.
documents is much higher. And whenever we start taking those costs away, it's actually going to save money. Now, whenever you said about investing in the process for scanning in, for recording, for doing all that, doing all the basic work that human beings and computers need to work together on, it becomes really effective because the computers you have, as long as you've bought computers within the last 5 years, can run the portals to the blockchain. The scanners that you hold in your hand can send the data to the blockchain. They might need their software updated, but that
Hmm.
system, it's not a high demand system. It's not a system that's going to require you to go out and buy an IBM supercomputer. All it takes is the ability to access the blockchain. You can do that with something as simple as a cell phone. So it should reduce costs for companies around the world, even the ones that are really vested in the supply chain. The only people
Right.
that it's going to hurt is CPAs or that are used to going through all that paper because they're not going to get their hours for it.
Well, I think this is sort of borne out in the second article that we looked at this week, where it talked about VChain, who partnered with Boston Consulting Group, and they're looking at driving trillions of dollars in real world asset integration. I mean, Boston Consulting Group is one of the largest global consulting firms in the world. And they said that they expect the market for tokenized assets to hit $16 trillion. And in doing that, they have put in place a strategic relationship with VChain. According to the Bank of America report, tokenization will really transform the existing financial infrastructure. It reduces costs and optimizes the supply chain to increase efficiencies. And this partnership includes names like Walmart, PwC, DNV, and BMW. So they're taking the BMW and tokenizing its entire supply chain. And this is leading to a significant reduction in carbon emissions in agriculture and strengthening our food supply chains. So, Chris, this is a big thing, it seems, this real world assets.
Yeah, I mean, it's the biggest thing we know because it's the world we're on. Everything in the world
Mm,
can be tokenized. And when you're looking at this, you've got to applaud companies that are stepping forward and doing this because you mentioned agriculture. One of the big assets of tokenizing the real world assets in agriculture is you just saw the salmonella outbreak with eggs.
yes.
Billions and billions of eggs are being recalled. Most people don't know about it. They've got salmonella. What are we going to do with them? Um, if you have that supply chain tokenized the whole way from the chicken to the point of sale, you can have it set up where you know which batch of eggs went to which factory, which ones were infected, and then whenever it comes to buying them from Walmart or your local grocery store, when that SKU is scanned because you know where those came from, and
Mhm.
people get those receipts emailed to them or texted to them, you could actually text people, please bring your eggs back. They may have been contaminated because you know where they went from and you know if they were or not. And it doesn't just save money, it can save lives. And that is one of the big reasons that we're pushing it. Uh, the different groups that are working on it, we work with Solana, we work with Constellation, and the major blockchains are seeing the advantage for this, and they're seeing how if they allow themselves to integrate, it can become even more effective. And I think in the next couple of years, you're going to see more and more companies coming out and doing this, not because it's the cheapest thing to do, which it is, but
Mm-hmm.
because it's the right thing to do, because they can protect themselves and they can protect their customers. And this is going to open a lot of doors, especially in medical, pharma, agricultural industries, because if you can trace product from point of creation to point of sale, we can get like the opioid crisis of the last 15 years. We could have kept that off the market because we would have known exactly where those drugs were.
Yeah, well, Walmart, I mean, they are a giant when it comes to managing, thousands of supply chains from, well, maybe millions of supply chains from tens of thousands of suppliers. So does that mean that they're going to actually push this down to their suppliers with respect to this tokenization of real world assets?
I really believe it will. Walmart
Mm,
is known for making its suppliers do what it's told. Um, Basically, if you make a product, if you make Kevin Flakes
yeah.
and you want to sell them to Walmart, Walmart will sell them for you. But the deal that they cut with you is if if we buy a bunch of them and then they don't sell, you have to buy the product back. I mean, they'll put some on clearance, but they don't want to clear their whole inventory. They don't lose money on stuff. And
Right.
they do this by making people's supply chains more efficient. This doesn't really, like, when this first started back in the 90s, and I was in grad school, and I remember them saying, Walmart's evil, it's doing this horrible thing. And then we find out that now our supply chain is 100 times more efficient than it was back then. A lot of it because of technological innovation. But whenever companies like Walmart do that, it
Mhm.
really can help encourage like a small farmer, because Walmart doesn't just say, "Hey, farmer, start recording your crops." It says, "Hey, farmer, we will we will give you this system to help record your crops." So with the farmer, like there's a barn. That's why I'm looking off to the right here.
Mhm.
That if they went to my neighbor and said, "Hey, we can help you with this," it doesn't push the burden down onto that farmer. It actually helps the big companies help the little companies get these products out there. So big groups like Walmart, whenever they do it, like a lot of people attack the big companies, they're really doing it to help supply system, which means they're going to help the little guys too.
Wow. So this is really critical, and I think it's actually driving multiple industries, not just selling the eggs and chicken,
Yeah.
but this is highlighted in the third article that we saw in Tech Radar this week. And they were talking about Industry 5.0 and how important data has become as artificial intelligence is sort of driving everything. And they highlighted that many industries are really relying on these physical assets, from construction to manufacturing, energy, utilities, and they're still trying to realize the benefits of Industry 4.0. But the data that they're getting today is helping them build to Industry 5.0. And this fifth industrial revolution is really going to be the foundation of it is digitalization and implementation of digital transformation. Things like you'd mentioned, these connected devices like your smartphones and your POS systems and data analytics, as long and the automation of these process driven activities. And these digital elements are actually how companies are going to the next step. And cut that. And they're using artificial intelligence to integrate this data from physical assets to unlock new avenues for supply chain innovation and variation. And that for businesses that actually manage these physical assets, This will optimize capital allocation and manage risk and drive more precise data-driven business decisions. And this, they're calling it now industrial AI, can provide a competitive edge by helping companies prioritize these high impact investments, adapt to changing regulatory and market conditions, and really align their business with sustainability. So making and saving the earth. So this real world, asset stuff is driving improvements in our ecosystem. Is this is also part of your strategy there, Chris?
Yeah, yeah, oh, most definitely. Whenever you start looking at the way Industry 5.0 is building out, and it's really cool because Industry 1.0 was the Industrial Revolution. That was the cotton gin. That was a couple hundred
Mm-hmm.
years ago. And it's only moved to Industry 5, which is the big data system. If you look at the web system, we started with ARPANET back in the 1960s. And now we're already in Web 3, and we've already got the door open to Web 4 that we're looking at. And
Wow.
they're starting to align. It's so amazing how the industry is starting to align because every moment in the world today, because of these cell phones that we hold in our hands, we are producing more information than was created last year. So the phones are receiving so much more information, the data that's being used for rescue
Mm-hmm.
stuff, the pictures, the video, the voice recognition, your Google Assistant that's recording a lot of your data. Like, so whenever you ask questions, it can answer you. This data is going out there and it's going into the cloud, and there's so much big data out there. And the problem was 5 years ago, we had no way to analyze it. People put it into spreadsheets and you had thousands of
Mm-hmm.
people read over it. Now you can take that big data and you can run it through an AI processor and have readable sheets of the relevant data based on what you're searching for. And as we move into this more block matrix technology, moving like advancing the blockchain, advancing the big data concept, and integrating AI into the actual fabric of the internet, we're going to have the ability to access this data. And industrially, it is amazing. It is such like the way that we can improve our industrial processes here in the United States are amazing. But where it really steps out is the amount of medical data we create each year is doubling. We can put that information into the AI too, and we can start finding things that link cancers together. We can find things that start tracking diseases around the world that are causing problems. And the AI can do it, and they can see the things that humans miss. Because if you have 5 AIs working on something, you can see hundreds of thousands of people's worth of work. Now, it's never going to eliminate the human factor because there are things that we can make transactions on that computers can't because we have intuition. But whenever it comes down to raw crunching numbers,
Yeah.
I'll take an AI over the MIT math lab every day because it can do it faster and more efficiently. Now, if I want to take something that takes an innovative leap or needs to create something new, those guys from MIT or those guys from Dartmouth, those are going to be the guys I call. But on a regular day-to-day basis, AIs are going to get rid of that data job that's like making people go blind around the world.
Well, wow, I think you're scaring a lot of people, saying that now AI is going to take over every industry, and really the big brother or the big sister is AI in your supply chain, and it could be scary because the fourth and last article is really about, they sort of describe this as the crypto frontier.
Yes.
And when you hear crypto, the only thing people think of is Bitcoin and all of the scams that cryptocurrency sort of has become, sort of front of mind. They're scared of it. But this crypto frontier is really changing. It's driving innovation and utility. And this is from our friends over at UCWE, and talking about how blockchain adoption is accelerating how digital assets, the role that they're playing in the global economy, from transforming traditional industries to opening up new markets through asset tokenization. And they basically said that cryptocurrency is bright. And, talking about this, big brother, big sister, they talk about oracles over the network. And they're saying how Ethereum on the blockchain is really driving, making it much easier to build what's known as decentralized apps or DApps to foster innovation across finance, gaming, and supply chains. They talk about Cardano, who has really been distinguished by the research that they've done, and that they've been focused on security, sustainability, and scalability through point of sale systems and Chainlink, which is really a leading decentralized Oracle network. And you say, well, what is an Oracle? Well, this is a decentralized capability that enables the creation of hybrid smart contracts on, on the blockchain, where on-chain code and off-chain infrastructure are combined to support these DApps as they react in real time to real world events. And this is really crucial for like insurance and supply chains and finances. And one important note is a major or leading oracle that's working today to support supply chains is the Pico Novus network, where they use proof of time consensus mechanisms with hundreds of active nodes around the world that work independently for security and immutability. They drive over 110,000 transactions per second. And in healthcare, they're ensuring data protection and compliance with strict regulatory standards. And in finance, they're allowing for the digital representation of real world assets like real estate, commodities, and intellectual property. And in the industrial world, in industries like manufacturing and logistics, Pico Novus has enhanced supply chain management that enables real-time tracking of goods while ensuring data security and integrity. So this is not the future, is it? It's now, and it's been here.
And you brought up a good point that they tend to be afraid of change. And you mentioned Big Brother. Like, yes, what I described, it does sound like Big Brother until we add the last piece. The great thing that differentiates Web 3 and 4 from what was there previously is the individual's ownership of their own data. And whenever they were writing 1984, and whenever people were getting scared about Big Brother and talking about like communism and where we're going to have ministries of truth and fact checkers and stuff like that, that came true. We were just about 20 years slow. I mean, we saw the fact checkers on Facebook and Twitter, wherever they said, man dies because car wrecked. And like, then it pops up, this may be false because the man died, but he could have died from 1,000 things between when he drove off the bridge before it hit the water. And it's like, well, is that a fact checker or is that just beyond? And whenever you own your own data, though, it gives you the access for two things. One, it is the ability to control your own data, how it's used, who has access to it, and what it can be used for. That's a really powerful thing. And that's really, if you get back the whole way to the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence, the life, liberty, and happiness, the person's papers that they are protected in, that's your data. The founding fathers, there weren't even computers, there weren't anything like that. But they said, in your data, the stuff you create, you have a right to privacy. And it's just taken us 250 years, next year, right about 250 years, to get this right, to where we can provide that digitally and protect people with so much to gain. The second piece that makes it even better is that you can monetize your data. In Web 2, Facebook took your data and gave you a free social media place to waste your life on.
Right, right.
Now you can monetize that data, you can sell that data, and you can get paid back by the companies that are using that data, because when you have the power to control your data, you can also have the power to shut that data off. And that gives the power to the individual. That gives the power to the Kevin Jacksons of the world, to the Chris Smithmyers of the world, and lets them have a say in what they're doing with it. So cryptocurrency, I believe it is the future. At least I hope it is the future, as I own a cryptocurrency company. So I hope it's the future. But as we move away from the nation state telling you what money you have and how you can use it, to you having the ability to monetize yourself and monetize your information to gain money, it gives the people all around the world the ability to have a voice. And how they use that voice is really up to them. That's not something that those of us sitting behind a computer or sitting behind a camera can control. But it's the moment where we say, do we have faith in humanity? And do we want to give the choice to the individuals? And I hope we're to that point. I hope that we're ready to make the right choices as a species.
Wow, there's so much information. And what you're saying is it's inspirational. It gives me faith in mankind, and that maybe this technology is really lifting us all up. So if someone wanted to reach out to you, Chris, and to learn more about Black Wallet and what you're doing and how this revolution in real world tokenization and the supply chain will affect us all, how can they contact you?
Well, if anybody that wants to get involved with tokenization or large scale real world asset tokenization or a country or anything like that, we deal with a bunch of those. Feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. I love making new friends. It's just Christopher Smithmyer on LinkedIn. I'm a guy, I believe I've either got a cowboy hat or a beard that's a whole lot blacker than it is now because I haven't updated my picture. You can also email me at chris@blackwalletgroup.com. And we'll get back to you as soon as we can. I do get a lot of emails a day, so LinkedIn is your best bet. But I'd love to talk to new people. I love to help introduce people to this field. And as a college professor, I teach a whole lot of students about this stuff too. So feel free to reach out to me. I love the connections.
Now, we really appreciate you joining us today on this special edition of The Buzz. And audience, thank you very much for joining us on The Buzz. And make sure to join us next Monday, where we will give you the latest news on the supply chain and the logistics industry. But, Scott is still banging on the door over there, but take a bit of the information that we've shared with you to make life better. And as Scott always says, do good, give forward, and be the change that's needed. Take action based upon what we've provided. So on that note, we'll see you next time on Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everyone.